Oh my gosh, the crazy lady came back. I can't believe it.
And it didn't mute me whenever we opened it this time. It learned.
Ooh, I don't know if I
It
did that or
wrote to do
not.
that.
I couldn't tell you if I did that. Anyway, so welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to revisit my very first daily page that I wrote in my Morning Musings, book one, volume one. I don't know. I kind of go back and forth between feeling like it's a book and a volume. Oh no, Amber left us. Amber, come back. Don't go. Is she coming back? Does she know? There she is. Will she make it in? Just when I said thank you for coming back, Amber's like, yeah, I'm out of here.
My phone did it.
Sure, it did. Blame it on the phone. Um, anyway, we're revisiting my very first entry that I wrote on May 21st, 2023. And today is June 5th, 2025. So this was slightly over 2 years ago that I wrote this, and it's really crazy looking back. Like, I was a completely different person, I was in a completely different place, and I really credit starting these daily pages as something that, like, not only like changed my life, but maybe also, I don't want it to sound dramatic, but I feel like it kind of saved my life too.
It was like a domino effect. You started writing it and things just started falling into place.
And I think a lot of that had to do with the way that I wanted to approach writing my daily pages because I knew that I had a lot of negative things to say, but I didn't want the overall tone of any entry to at least end that way. I wanted to be like, okay, what can I do about this? Even if I have something that I need to vent or complain about, like, what am I going to do about it? And I really think that that was a big part of these changes that happened.
Well, it's like you kind of started a healing journey that you kind of started it before that because you were already, I mean, I was there with you. So you had already kind of started with this. I am not I'm not completely content at where I'm at now. And so I kind of want to see where I can change things. And that's when you started reading the artist's way
Mm-hmm.
and other stuff like that. So you're like, I'm gonna start. So you kind of started like a journey of self-healing and growth before that, and probably before me and you even met, because you were already going into the nonfiction stuff and you were doing the uh health. What do you
Natural health.
natural health, you were doing that, and you had already been doing that for years. But this is like when the this entry right here is whenever you were like, okay, I am diving head first into figuring out how to make my life and myself happier and overall becoming more, content human. And I have watched it happen, and I've been working on it myself, and reading it has helped with that too. So
Well,
thank
and
you to
so, yeah, that kind of leads into my point of like why Amber is here commenting on these with me is because she was there living it with me, like through text messages, through video chats, just all of this. Like she was there with me through a lot of it. So yeah, she's a good one to make comments on it. Also, to your point, Amber, I had been working on myself for a long time. I feel like my journey had started like even in my late 20s of trying to work on myself. I was always trying to better myself. And when I first learned about natural health, like the way that natural health talks holistically about how your mental and emotional health is like a vital part of whether we're physically healthy or not, like really meant a lot to me. So I was always trying to better myself since I had learned so much of that.
I also stumbled into trying to better myself and my life. Like I did that, when I found out I was pregnant, I decided to change then. I was 16. But also, whenever I got into my 20s and I had a couple of kids and I was finishing college, that's when I was like, yeah, I have to make more changes and be better for my kids and for myself. And I was in my 20s, and I've noticed that a lot of people hit like a point somewhere in their 20s where they're like, okay, I've got to figure life out now. That does not happen when you're 18. I don't know why 18 is like, oh, I'm 18, I'm a grown up. No, you don't start figuring stuff out until you're in your 20s. Nobody does. It's just, it's not going to happen, even if you try in your teenage years or even your very early 20s. It's just, you're not there yet. You're not mentally prepared at all.
Well, and then I also feel like you tend to take it up another notch. Like when you turn 30 or somewhere in your 30s, you're like, okay, like I'm ready to be even a little more serious about this and this journey and where I'm going. At least that's how it
I,
was for me.
I also feel like in the 30s is also when people really start to get a full understanding of accountability also. That is
Mm,
something that really comes up in your 30s, because
hmm.
before that you may be like, okay, well, everybody else is a problem, and then you start getting in your early, your later 20s, early 30s, and you're like, what if I'm the problem? And you start doing a lot more self-reflection at that point.
Well, and I mean, you know, it really does come down to if there's a lot of things that we're unhappy with in life, we are the problem. Like,
Yes.
we are the ones that have the choices to do differently. Um, so
And
yeah,
you got to figure out that it's, if you allow it in your life, it's gonna stay there as long as you continue to allow it.
yeah, for sure. And I didn't realize that when I started these pages that it took less or it took almost exactly 1 year for my life to change dramatically. And then since it did that year ago, it's changed dramatically again. And right before we started filming, Amber and I were talking about how we wanted to begin introducing this. And she mentioned, I'm really excited now to see like where am I going to be next year because I've seen how dramatically and looking back like I've chronicled how dramatically my life changed in a year and so even in this next year and two I believe it's going to change just as much again.
And I feel like that's like that for everybody. I mean, a 1-year-old might not be able to walk or talk, but then once they hit 3 years old, they're running, screaming, and just taking over the world.
Yeah. Yeah, and
So,
a lot of it has to do with our drive of whether we're going to improve ourselves because there are those people that choose to stay stuck and stay where they're at and they don't want to and that's a choice that they get to make. There's no judgment there, but we get to decide if we're going to change and grow or not.
yep.
Okay, shall we dive into this?
Well, we're not gonna like actually dive in. I don't want to get all wet and stuff right now.
No bathing suit
No,
required.
no real diving, right?
No.
Okay.
Okay. This was about May 21st, 2023. I also want to point out that I started uh my morning musings on the morning of my 18th wedding anniversary. So that's kind of I don't know, is that like ironic or symbolic?
It might be symbolic. Oh, let's also let me, as your editor, point out the fact that this book is the first book I ever tried proofreading, like actual proofreading by myself. Like I did the newspaper and stuff in college, and I've done my own proofreading. This is the first time ever. So if I missed anything that you missed, and we both missed it, and I missed it for sure in the first book, or if I did something weird in here, just know I am learning. I was learning the proofreading here. I'm much better at proofreading now than I was back then. So we're just gonna pretend that I was 5 when I proofread this.
I mean, as a proofreader, you probably were a 5-year-old proofreader. So I feel like you should be allowed the grace of that we would give a 5-year-old. All right. So here's what I had to say slightly more than 2 years ago. I have a bad habit of comparing myself to others. They write faster, they put out more content than I do. They work longer hours. They stay up later. It's impossible to feel accomplished by what I do because someone I know or see on social media is always doing more.
Oh my
When
gosh, Tirzah. When we first started sprinting together in chat, you would get so frustrated because you would have like 159 words in 15 minutes, and somebody else would have like like Emma Lemming would have like 700 words, and you were just like, how? That's been 15 minutes, and you would get frustrated and be like, I'm not doing this anymore. This I can't because you guys are just better than me. I'm like, no, they're not better than you, Tirzah. You're taking more time, you're putting more, yeah, you were really bad about that before. You are much better about that now.
I really felt bad about my sprinting skills, which it wasn't something I had ever done before. So that is a really good point. Was back then, yeah, I got really jaded by those early sprints, and I just felt like I was awful for not being able to put out that word count that other people were doing. Um, although I mean, it still happens today. Like if I'm really like taking my time and like nitpicking my words and trying to make my first draft my last draft, then yeah, it takes me a while to get through the words. But then there are times like when I can just let myself go and sprint, like they come way faster. But
Yeah, but you no longer complain about it or get upset about it because we had private chats about that where you were upset and you don't do that anymore, which is amazing growth.
well, thank you. When will I ever be enough for myself? I feel like I'm getting there. I've grown there.
Yes.
Recently, I posted in a support group about my self doubt and imposter syndrome. Several people talked about quality over quantity. This resonated with me. When I write for the story that matters the most to me, I agonize over every word and phrase. I want it to be right. I need it to be perfect for me. And we should all know that I'm talking about the monarch's daughter there. It's perfectly natural to spend extra time on the things more important to me. This does result in me having fewer hours for other projects, editing for myself, or editing for clients. Balance and a healthy mindset are things I'm working on and something I aspire to.
Oh,
Another
I didn't
reason,
realize I didn't realize you've been editing for clients for 2 years because I was editing for that means I we have been editing for people for a couple years now. High
Mhm.
five.
Yeah. Another result of posting about my mindset struggles in that group is purchasing the book The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. I didn't realize it had been around for 30 years, and people are still talking about it today. What an accomplishment. I'd heard of this book slash program before, so of course I grabbed it immediately. I go through phases of being an extreme self improvement junkie, buying all sorts of books and trying all sorts of programs. My need for self improvement was born out of my health struggles. I've dealt with physical health issues since I was a baby and emotional health issues since I was a teenager. At 15, I was told I would need to be on antidepressants for the rest of my life, which was not true. Not true at
Right.
all. So much of it
Same.
was situational,
Same
very
though.
situational depression for me. None of the drugs I tried provided any benefits, or the side effects vastly outweighed them. I participated in a clinical trial for one that improved my mood, but also made me an insomniac. Now, I know many people who cope with insomnia and still function in their daily lives. I am not one of them.
I
Yeah, I don't understand how Amber survives on how little sleep she gets. While I was on that specific medication and only sleeping a few hours at night, I was a hazard behind the wheel. After only 5 or 10 minutes of driving, I was in danger of falling asleep. It didn't matter how loudly I played music or how boisterously I sang along. Driving became terrifying. I needed my job. The meds had to go. Then I went to see a natural health practitioner. 25 years of allopathic care left me miserable. Time to try something else. Oh boy, did my search take me down a big and wonderful rabbit hole. I regret nothing. On a random side note, all this handwriting is making my hand and wrist ache. I hope I get used to it because I can't slow down when I handwrite. My hand can't keep up with my brain. Yeah, that went away. It took a couple weeks, but it went away. I can now like handwrite as much as I want. My rabbit hole circled around to the book I purchased and received yesterday, The Artist's Way. The book talks about two non negotiable regular activities for unlocking your creativity. What I'm doing now is the daily commitment morning pages, 3 handwritten pages of anything and everything that comes to mind. No typing, no censoring, no judgment. Cameron stresses that the morning pages aren't even to be read, not by anyone now, possibly not by you ever. Well, I have a tendency to bend other people's rules and follow my instinct. 30 years ago, when people first started following Cameron's idea and writing their morning pages, there was probably a lot more junk and nastiness that needed to come out. I think of creativity as a pool that all creatives share. The ideas, books, paintings, symphonies, screenplays, sculptures, etc., all float about in this shared pool. Some of us are more inclined to certain modalities than others. Let's say a piece of driftwood floats to me. I might notice it as a unique piece of wood and appreciate it, but have no idea what to do with it. So it floats to someone else. The next person to discover it might enjoy carving. They snatch it up, excited to bring out the item they see inside it. There's plenty more driftwood in the pool for that artist or others to claim. What one person disregards moves to the next. The pool is full of unending inspiration for all the creatives out there. Carving not your thing? How about a story idea to bring to life, or a tune to compose, or a masterpiece to paint? No one loses when someone wins or discovers a new idea. The pool is without end. Any comments on competition, Amber?
Look, look, you may be competitive, but usually you're quietly competitive. I know I have an issue with being outwardly competitive. We both have that drive though, and I feel like that's a good thing.
I did really have to work on my competitive nature because, yeah, there were some really close family members that were not quite okay with how competitive I was at one point. But I also believe that when I was crazy competitive like that, that it was sort of a need to prove myself and to prove that I had worth by being able to win. Um, so it had a lot more to do with my insecurities and lack of self-esteem than the actual process of winning itself.
I
So,
think that when I'm being competitive, it's usually to try to push others more so than to push myself. So,
I
but
can
I
see
know that
that.
you were doing a lot of self-reflecting, like why do I have to put like mirror myself to somebody else? I've kind of watched that with you. Me, I'm just like, hey, let's do this. Let's race. Let's do this thing. Come on, you can do it. And then you're over there like, I am not doing enough.
Yes,
So
I was very much in the I wasn't doing enough for a long time. And that was definitely reflecting on my poor self-esteem.
and that just proves that there's multiple different ways to do anything, including even being competitive. There are different sides for everything. So
Mm-hmm.
it's part of that self-reflection and journey. You just got to figure out where you're at and what you need to do for your own life.
Yeah, we all got to do that for ourselves. So now back to the strong warning of what not sharing. Hang on. Now back to the strong warning of not sharing what goes into these morning pages. I think there used to be a lot of junk in the pool. It needed to be cleaned for many reasons. There was a pileup of judgments, insecurities, imposter syndrome, excuses, etc. Lots of things to hinder or cloud creativity. 30 years ago, creatives started cleaning the pool with their morning pages. A lot of crap came out. Some of it disturbed their loved ones who read what they wrote. Some of it disturbed the people who wrote it. But this nastiness didn't originate from the person who put it to the paper. Creatives are channels. Have you ever had an idea come to you from seemingly nowhere and then you acted on it and it just flowed? That's because you didn't resist the process of being the conduit for it to come to life. You just allowed. The last 30 years of Morning Pages are creatives allowing themselves to channel the junk out of the pool. Hardly any of it was their own junk, but they were willing to help clean. The pool is more pristine today than ever, and every time someone writes their morning pages, it gets a little bit cleaner. As a result, the inspiration floating around in it is easier to see. We all benefit from everyone who contributes to the cleaning. So I'm sharing these morning pages in hopes that they inspire someone else. If your creativity is struggling, consider whether the area of the pool you're in might be littered. Try some morning pages to clean it up. It can't hurt anything and it just might help. You don't need to show them to anyone. You don't even need to read them for yourself. I share because that's part of my calling as a creative teacher and empath. And for today, the area I'm swimming in looks great. That might not be true for me tomorrow, but I'm willing to share some yuck so you know I can relate to the yuck you find. Do the pages, clean the pool. What's the worst that can happen? I still really agree about creatives being a channel. I don't feel like I make up the stories that come to me. I feel like I tap into them and then it's my job to put what I see down on paper as much as possible. I also feel like that's why sometimes writers don't get to control their characters. It's because they're not your characters. They came to you for you to write what they are and how they are.
Yeah, I don't get along with my characters a lot of times. They don't listen. And if you try to force and make them do whatever it is that you think should happen, then you wind up deleting 3 chapters, being mad, crying for 3 days, not looking at anything to do with writing. And when you come back to it, it's like they're gonna do what they want anyways. And you just gotta let them do what they want.
I think you should. I think that we try too hard to control it. And it's like, if the story isn't going how you think it should go, that just means it wasn't the story that you thought it was.
Right. But the Raining Ember started out as something that was supposed to be delving into the afterlife. That was how it started, and I don't even know how eventually dinosaurs became a thing, which is further into the series that I haven't written yet. But there's dinosaurs, and I didn't know that. I didn't know that was going to happen until one day it was like, oh, what? Okay, that's weird. But thanks for letting me know because I should have known this when I first started writing because now I'm thrown off base. What?
Yeah, I think we only get a glimpse of the story when we first write it. And so we start to put our expectations and projections on it. But then as we write it, it becomes a living thing and it gets to expand and grow like the same way that a tree or a plant would. We might not be able to identify a sapling for what it's going to be when it's a bigger tree, or even like if it's just a little sprout, we might be able to guess at what it's at, but we might not know until it's there.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that's part of the whole war against planters versus plotters. Pantsers versus plotters, not planters, but pantsers versus plotters and planters who do plotting and
Pantsing.
pantsing at the same time. But
Mm-hmm.
like I could never be a plotter because if I did an outline and then tried to write a story from that outline, first of all, the story is not going to match the outline at all. And second of all, I'm going to get mad because I can't make it do what I planned. So then I'm just going to throw the whole thing away and start a new story. I cannot plan anything. And I don't understand people who can outline and then write. So
Same. Yeah, I'm
it's like,
totally a pantser, and I feel like the story's ruined for me if I try to outline it. Like, I feel like I don't know if I have actually like fully ever outlined a story or not. I can't remember, but it sounds terrible, and I feel like I don't want to know what happens next until I'm writing it. Like I might know it like the day before or like it'll happen, like I'll get that story idea and then it might be a few days before I'm able to write it down, and then once I write it down I get the next part. But yeah, I wouldn't want to know like how the whole thing was going to play out until I was writing it. That sounds terrible.
I always get like the idea of how a story is going to end, and then I have to sit down and just start writing, and that's the beginning. And I have to write until I can get to that end point, but I have no idea how it's going to start or how it's going to get there whenever the idea forms. It's like I got like a little idea seed, and the idea seed is literally the ending. And then I have to work from the beginning to the end, but the end could change before I get there, but it's not going to change significantly. It's always going to have like the same type of ending no matter what I do, but I don't know how it's going to get there. I don't know what's going to happen in the middle. I have no idea.
So that's actually similar to how mine works is when I get a story idea, I get the very beginning of it, like how I'm going to start writing it, and then I know how it ends. I always get that final scene. Like that's something that's like been really consistent is like I know. So like the journey for me, I don't feel like the ending is ruined for knowing what it is because like it's the journey for me that's really fun.
And that's kind of what you're doing with your morning musings too. You're like, I'm going to start writing this, and I'm hoping that by the time that I get, by the time I get to a point 3 5 years from now, I want to be a different kind of person. I know I want to be a better, healthier person, but you didn't know what the journey was. You had no idea what was coming and what was going to change. And that's in a nonfiction. So,
Yeah, but it was like I knew I was going to reach my goals. Like, and I
right,
still am. Like, I know what my goals are and that I'm going to stay on that path to get them. I'm constantly asking, like, what can I do to reach the next level, make the next step towards my goals? Because that's always important to me. So, yeah, in a way, I kind of know the ending. It was just, I would never have guessed how I was going to get there.
right. Or what would change to make it possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's been crazy. So I hope that everybody reading or watching sticks with us because it's a really wild ride. I got a lot of the couple of reviews I've gotten it on so far. There was one person that mentioned they're like, wow, that was a lot of ups and downs. And there's ups and downs in each month, I feel like, during that process for me. And then there's big ups and downs throughout the years between now and then. But it's totally been worth it in the end. Like, I am so grateful for where I am now and that I've gotten through all of that and that I had Amber to help me get through all of that because I had Amber and some other really good friends that were there for me during some really difficult times that I never would have imagined I would ever have to go through.
Well, you do know that a story isn't really a story without conflict. So,
Is that what's happening? Is like this is just life being like, yeah, we're keeping it interesting for you and your readers.
yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So am I on a reality TV show right now?
Dude, Josh made me watch The Truman Show. When I saw that, I was like, this is how I feel all the time because I have mental issues and I'm paranoid all the time about everything. And I was like, this movie makes me feel validated because
But I'm
like
literally doing that to myself now.
you're doing it to yourself, but you're aware of it. He wasn't aware of it. And I feel like I'm aware of something like that all the time, and you're making it happen for you.
I am. Yeah. But I mean, I've always had a drive to help people, like ever since um like the first time that I started getting healthier and like just realized some small steps that made a big difference for me. I was always like, I want to tell as many people as possible about this. So like that's always been a huge drive for me is what can I share that I've gone through that might help others?
That might be why we get along so well too, because even when I was like in second, third grade, and they would be like, "Okay, we're gonna write an essay or a research paper. Go research, red foxes," and I would go read about them, and then I want to tell everyone. So I would like write the most extravagant essays. I would put everything in there, and I always wrote so much, and my teachers were like, why do you have so many pages? It only had to be 2 pages. This is like 5 pages because I
Yeah.
had to tell you everything. I learned something. I'm not going to gatekeep any of this information. I need to tell you everything I learned. I've done that my whole life.
That was another of my favorite compliments that I've ever gotten was it was in the back of, was it called Season of the Monster?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was
By AJ Humphrey.
say again.
AJ Humphrey, yep.
Thank you. AJ Humphrey. I'm bad with names and I hadn't looked at the book recently to remind myself. Although I follow him on Facebook and Instagram, I always see his posts. So I should have
Yeah.
gotten there. We'll have to let him know we shouted him out. So, but it was in the back of Spring, I believe is the first one that it starts with because it goes through each season of the year. But in the back, when I got my signed copy from AJ, um, he wrote that he appreciated how much I didn't gatekeep. Because that has been a goal of mine. Like if there's something you want to know that I know how to do, yeah, I want to share it with you. Maybe I can't share it with everybody one on one. So I might need to make a video about it or teach a course on it, like I've done with Facebook ads and things. But yeah, that was one of my favorite compliments ever, especially as an author in the author world, was having somebody tell me that they noticed that I didn't gatekeep.
Yep. And a lot of people probably have noticed that, and I don't like the gatekeeping. I understand, yeah, you might have to charge for like classes and stuff because you have to be paid for your time, but also you can't just be like, if you don't ever pay this, you'll never know this information. It's oh my gosh, I can't stand that.
Yeah, it's really annoying. Like as much as possible, like let's help each other. And time is limited, so we all have bills to pay. So like, money comes into a lot of things that we don't want it to, but yeah, I like to share with other people.
Yes, me too.
Yep. And we got lots in the pipeline coming up that Amber and I are going to be collaborating on and sharing with you guys. So we're excited about that. Stay tuned. I'm sure that we'll talk about it on this Morning Musings channel because Amber and I can't not talk about things. So I guess
Right?
this is turning into a podcast as much as it is commentary on the musings. So any final words, Amber, as we wrap this up?
Um, I don't like being put on the spot, Tirzah. Shh.
Spotlight. Everybody spotlight on Amber.
Grounded. You're grounded.
Well, I hope that people leave some comments. Let us know what you like about this, what you don't like, because we definitely want to tailor this to, um, what keeps you interested in watching. So let us know because, we can shut up a little bit more if we need to, can't we? Can't we?
Tirzah can shut up a little bit if you need her to. Amber has no filter or ability to not talk.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks everybody for watching and listening. We appreciate you. And yeah, we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.